right now looking at live pictures over Montecito, California. Again, it's so hard to completely grasp the situation that's unfolded there over the last few days, but sometimes you can get a little perspective from above and just how much coverage those mudslides managed to do. And of course, every home you see impacted, there are family members hoping that their loved ones are safe, that their neighbors are safe, and unfortunately expecting that perhaps with so many people still unaccounted for, that there's still unfortunately some sad news ahead. The good news weather-wise, what you're seeing in these live aerials, the sun is out. The heavy rain has moved on, and so right now this is giving an opportunity for those very hard-working first responders, those crews who are out there right now still trying to make sure everybody's okay. We'll continue to bring you updates from California throughout the show. Alex?
Listen to that. Ice chunks floating down the Ohio River there in Ashland, Kentucky. This was the scene on Saturday. Brief warm-up through the week, but highs will be dipping below freezing again by the weekend. So things melting a bit, but they'll be refreezing thanks to some more cold air that's going to slide its way on in. Now, remember, last week, many of us were really in the deep freeze. Here was the pattern. We had this big, massive dip in the jet stream here for us, so we had pretty cold air mass that made its way all the way down to the Gulf Coast in the West Ridge, and things were on the milder side there. Well, change is here for this week. Bit of a dip here in the west, and that'll work its way east here as we move our way through into the weekend. So by the time we get to that weekend time frame, we're going to see a lot of areas go from warming up to back to much, much colder times, highs 20 degrees or so, in some cases below average. So here you are in Minneapolis. Your average high is 23 degrees, up to about 40 for today. But look what happens. 18 for Thursday with snow. That snow comes to an end, but much, much cold air continues to slide its way on in. We jump up a bit for Sunday. Chance for another little bit of snow for Sunday afternoon, and then cools down even more. Looks like early next week, we could see highs that won't be getting above zero. So maybe not as cold as what we rang in the new year with here in Minneapolis, but still plenty cold enough. Let's get an update on some of the snow that we may be finding ourselves dealing with here. Thanks to Hunter. Let's head back to the lab.
Well, right on cue, we are in the heart of winter, and it certainly is feeling like that in a lot of places. You're taking a look at International Falls, Minnesota, 33 degrees.
Wait, what? That's pretty warm for them, isn't it?
It is quite warm.
Yeah.
So
kind of a thaw temporarily, but colder air is coming back in next week. And in between the two is a nasty winter storm that's going to bring ice to the upper Midwest and parts of the Ohio Valley and Mid-South Thursday night. So this is now 36 hours out. I'm telling you, there are going to be winter storm watches out issued this afternoon by the Weather Service in places that haven't seen winter storm watches for more than a year.
It is time to brush up on what that means for you, your life. You know, charge those phones. Make sure you have backup gear in your car, because it is going to be nasty. Nasty
on the backside of this right there. So we're going to have the rain transition to freezing rain. In other words, the colder air will come in right at the ground, but it'll still be warm enough aloft to support the rain. And we're going to see a band of freezing rain. Could be significant, maybe more than in some places a half of an inch of ice, perhaps. That is significant. All kinds of travel problems, power outages potentially. And then after that, as the system moves this way, there may be some snow to cover up some of that ice during the nighttime on Friday.
It's hard to think of a scenario that's more difficult to deal with for road crews, for people just to get in there. But look at Friday night with that rain all the way up to Bangor.
Correct. East Coast, right along the I-95 corridor, looking like it is going to be more of a rain event than anything else. The storm track a bit too far to the west, so there's going to be enough mild air here along some of the cities, Boston, New York, Philly, all the way down to D.C. No problems there. It's New England. It's going to be hard to scour that cold air out. The rain is going to come in and freeze on contact, and then you get the snow.
And this is a terrible map, right? When you're talking about an ice forecast, the best chances for icing here, you go from all the way from Paducah, Indianapolis, Louisville.
Some of those places could, as I said, get up to a half of an inch of ice, and then the snow comes in to cover that, which makes it real problematic. And then the cold air next week, right? If you look at the forecast for next week, the guidance is pretty clear. Now, there are Arctic shots coming in for a few days, and it is likely next week to keep it below average.
But you're saying shot.
Shot. One of them.
One of them. So this is a much different look as you get into the week after that.
Very different airflow pattern, likely setting up second half of January. We've kind of thought this all along, that much milder air coming in off the Pacific should warm everybody up significantly.
Not to get ahead of ourselves, but January 23rd, you know what's after that? February.
Very nice.
There's always February. We'll be right back.
There's always February.